Hi, I'm Kai, and this is my audience. Did you know about 200,000 juveniles enter the adult correctional justice system each year, and out of that 200,000, 1,200 juveniles enter the federal, state prisons in the United States? As a criminal justice major here at Ball State, we talk a lot about juveniles being sent to adult prisons and how terrible it possibly be for them, considering that they're not as strong and they're fragile. So today I will be discussing why juveniles should not be incarcerated in adult prisons. Like myself, the Equal Justice Initiative would agree that there is an increase in youth in America that are experiencing neglect, abuse, domestic and communal violence, and also low financial existence. These youth are being ignored and they're showing significant signs of potential criminals, and they're not receiving treatment, intervention, and help and support that they need. And we're talking about future employees, parents, teachers, and criminals who are not getting the basic life skills and experiences that otherwise we experience. Although juveniles are very much capable of committing crimes, adult crimes, like murder, rape, or violent assault, placing juveniles in adult prisons would essentially put them in the same situation in a smaller space. And they also have an increase of committing suicide at that point, which we don't want. We have to keep in mind that juveniles' personalities, mental health, personal lives all come into account when they're being sentenced. So when they are being tried as an adult, you have to also look at the fact that they don't necessarily understand what they did and the consequences that came with it. So being charged as an adult, as my second point, is not always the best solution, because we're keeping children locked up and they're missing out on life lessons, experiences, and skills that are supposed to aid them later in the future. Now juveniles understand exactly what they're doing, so the consequences of their action isn't in their spectrum when they're committing all these crimes, whether serious or petty. And some of us may blame the parents. The parents is a big factor in how a child is developing, so nature and nurture. Therefore, the parents influence the child's behavior, mannerism, beliefs, and morals. And many juveniles from neglectful and abusive families later in life become neglectful and abusive themselves. It doesn't have to necessarily be with children, it can be with friends, family, and spouses. And with that, juveniles start turning their attention to thrills and desires and petty crimes. And those who commit more serious crimes, such as murder and rape, they tend to go for people who are close to them, such as friends, family. And that's because they felt that they weren't helping them, or they did them wrong, or it's because that they were close and they didn't feel like they had help from them. And with this in mind, this is my third point. This is why juveniles should be placed in juvenile correctional facilities, because juvenile correctional facilities provide treatment, rehabilitation, programs, education, and also public support groups that are tailored to juveniles that otherwise would not be provided for them in an adult facility. Because once placed in an adult facility, individuals, whether juvenile or adult, go through prisonization, which is a culture in prison to make you quote unquote stronger and able to survive in prison. These juveniles need support and authority to be able to function properly and contribute to society once they're released, and they otherwise won't get this if they're placed in an adult facility. In conclusion, today I discussed the consequences of placing juveniles in adult prisons after being tried as an adult. Why being tried as an adult is not always the right choice for juveniles, no matter what crime they possibly committed. And juveniles should stay in juvenile correctional facilities in order to reduce recidivism. The negative impact of having juveniles placed in adult facilities outweighs the positives for placing them in juvenile facilities, where they'll be able to function and get the support they actually need that they didn't necessarily receive outside of the facility. Juveniles are more likely to learn from their mistakes early on than adults than adult would once they committed their crime already. And being placed in juvenile correctional facilities would implement programs suited for juveniles, and they would have a better chance of reducing the recidivism cycle. And we have to understand that not only does this affect juvenile inmates, but the community as well. However, this is why we tend to keep juveniles out of adult prisons. Someday we have to learn how to solve the problem where we can stop juveniles from committing the crime in the first place so they don't become future criminals. And that's whether that'll be their first or second offense. Would you guys agree?